The dawn of twilight. In the vast treasury of Norse mythology, no tale is as both majestic and tragic as Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. It is the moment when even Odin the All-Wise, Thor the Mighty, and Loki the Cunning cannot escape the fate woven since the dawn of time. Ragnarok is not merely a battle. It is prophecy itself, etched into the very roots of Yggdrasil, where the Norns, the three sisters of destiny, spun the red thread guiding every being toward its final hour. Ragnarok does not erupt in a single day. It begins in whispers, an endless winter, bonds of kinship turn to hatred, the ancient chains of monsters beginning to crack. In the sky, the wolves Skoll and Hati devour the sun and moon, plunging the world into eternal darkness. Beneath the earth, Fenrir howls as his fetters shatter, Jormungandr coils and rises from the deep, and Surtr of Muspelheim readies his fire to consume all creation. To the Norse, Ragnarok was never the end, but the turning of a cycle, destruction to make way for renewal. The world would drown in fire and ice, yet from the ashes, new life would bloom, and a new age would begin. But before that rebirth, every god, every hero, and even the betrayers must march into the last battlefield, where none shall return. This is the story of the gods' final death, of battles that shake all 9 realms, and of defiance in the face of destiny, even when fate has already spoken. Omens of Ragnarok. No one knew exactly when Ragnarok would begin, but the Norse believed the cosmos whispered warnings to those wise enough to listen. First came Fimbulwinter, the Great Winter. 3 endless years without a single summer. Skies heavy with clouds, snow falling ceaselessly, rivers and seas locked in ice. The cold did more than numb the flesh. It froze the hearts of men. Tribes turned savage, brothers raised blades against brothers, families crumbled, and greed and bloodshed ruled the land. At the same time, the bonds of the universe began to crack. In Asgard, the gods felt a crushing weight upon Yggdrasil, the world tree. Beneath its roots, the dragon Nhgr and countless creatures gnawed with growing fury, as if sensing the hour of collapse. From above, Odin's ravens, Hugin and Munin, returned with troubling news. The giant wolves Skoll and Hati drew ever closer to their prey, the sun and the moon. And then, the day would come when sun and moon were devoured. Light vanished, plunging the world into perfect darkness. No difference between day and night. Only a choking blackness where every step was uncertain. In that shadow, ancient chains shattered. Fenrir, the monstrous wolf, child of Loki, howled with a thunder that pierced the hearts of the gods. Jormungandr, the world's serpent, rose from the depths, its massive coils stirring waves strong enough to drown entire continents. From Muspelheim, Surtr's fire ignited the void. His flaming sword blazed like a newborn star, heralding the march of the fire legions. And in Helheim, the dead rallied. Led by Hel, goddess of the underworld, their spectral army began its march across Jalarbru toward Midgard. These signs could not be stopped. They were the turning gears of destiny, set in motion at the dawn of time, now grinding toward their inevitable climax. Odin, with all his wisdom, knew this was only the prologue. The true end would begin when the horns of Gjallarhorn thundered, Heimdall's call that the gates between realms had opened, and the final battle could no longer be delayed. The Battle of Ragnarok erupts. When the sound of Gjallarhorn thundered across the 9 realms, every being, god, monster, and mortal alike, knew the final hour had come. The horn was not just a call to battle. It was the sentence of the universe itself. Upon the blazing bridge of Bifrost stood Heimdall, guardian of the heavens, his eyes piercing the shadows as he raised the horn one last time. Its echo shook the cosmos, just before the rainbow bridge shattered beneath the march of Muspelheim's fiery host. On the side of the gods, Odin led the Aesir to the plain of Vigrid, the boundless field of destiny. At his side strode Thor, god of thunder, Mjolnir clenched in his hand, each step rumbling with storm and lightning. Freyr, once the god of peace and harvest, now wore armor but carried no magic sword. He had given it away long ago in a fateful bargain. Tyr, Vidar, and the Einherjar, fallen warriors chosen by the Valkyries, readied themselves for a battle they knew they would not survive. Chaos surged in answer. Fenrir led the monstrous horde, his eyes burning red, jaws wide enough to swallow the sky. Jormungandr, the world's serpent, slithered from the deep, coiling around Midgard and tightening its grip upon the world. From Muspelheim came Surtr, his sword of fire blazing higher than the heavens, while Hel marched forth from the land of the dead, leading her legion of frozen corpses across the battlefield. The clash was instant, chaos unleashed. Odin hurled himself against Fenrir, the All-Father against the Beast of Doom. Gungnir flashed in his hand, striking with divine precision, but fate had already spoken. Fenrir lunged, and in a single horrific bite, the great wolf swallowed Odin whole. The king's death sent a roar of anguish across Vigrid. Vidar, Odin's silent son, leapt forward in vengeance. Planting one foot upon the wolf's jaw, he tore Fenrir's mouth apart with godly might, slaying the beast, but too late to save his father. Elsewhere, Thor met Jormungandr. Storm clouds shattered, thunder split the heavens, and each swing of Mjolnir struck like the wrath of creation itself. The serpent answered with floods of venom, blackening the skies and boiling the seas. With a final, shattering blow, Thor crushed the serpent's skull and broke its grip upon the world. Yet victory carried its price. The venom coursed through his veins, and the thunder god staggered 9 steps before collapsing lifeless upon the earth. Freyr faced Surtr, but without his sword of power, he was swiftly overcome. The fire giant's blazing blade cut him down and surged onward, igniting the battlefield. Meanwhile, Heimdall and Loki, eternal rivals, finally clashed. Their duel was swift, merciless, and fated. Each struck a mortal wound, and together they fell, dying in one another's arms, leaving silence where hatred had long endured. At the end, Surtr raised his flaming sword high. With one final swing, he unleashed a firestorm that consumed Yggdrasil itself. The 9 realms burned. Ice melted, seas boiled, mountains crumbled, and the sky bled red before fading into eternal blackness. Ragnarok was complete. The prophecy fulfilled. The gods were no more. The rebirth of the world after Ragnarok. When Surtr's flames had devoured all and darkness smothered the 9 realms, the universe fell into a dreadful silence. No clash of weapons, no roars of beasts, no cries of warriors. Only the stench of ash and the lingering heat rising from the broken earth. Yggdrasil, the world tree, though scorched and blackened, still pulsed with hidden life deep within its roots. From that secret breath, the miracle of renewal began. A gentle rain descended, not blood, nor ash, but pure and cleansing. It washed the soot from every stone, every shadowed corner. From the damp earth, the first green shoots broke through, defiant against the charred soil. A new sun rose in the east, its warmth softer than the old, its light a promise rather than a blaze. The Norse believed she was the daughter of the slain sun, who escaped the jaws of Skoll and now returned to illuminate a newborn world. From the silence, survivors emerged. Vidar and Vali, the sons of Odin, stood unbroken, spared by destiny. Modi and Magni, sons of Thor, carried their father's hammer Mjolnir into the dawn, guardians of this fragile age. From the underworld, Hr and Baldur returned, the blind god and the radiant one, bringing forgiveness, hope, and light once thought lost forever. And humankind endured. Hidden deep within Yggdrasil's roots, a man and woman, Lif and Lifthraser, had sheltered through the storm. Now they stepped forth into the clear air, sowing seeds, building homes, and becoming the first ancestors of a renewed humanity. Yet though life blossomed anew, the memory of Ragnarok could not be erased. The survivors would tell the tale, not only as a warning of fate's unyielding power, but as a testament to the resilience of life itself. For they knew the cycle of birth and ruin would one day turn again, when time's wheel reached its edge. And at the farthest horizon, where waves crash against black stone, it is said the echoes of that final battle still linger, whispering that peace is never eternal, only the pause before the storm returns. The symbolism and deep meaning of Ragnarok. To the Norse, Ragnarok was never merely a tale of destruction. It was a mirror of how they understood the universe, fate, and the very nature of humanity. Every detail of this myth carries meaning that reaches far beyond the clash of swords and the roar of monsters. First, Ragnarok embodies the endless cycle of birth and death. The Norse lived in a land where winters were long and merciless, capable of wiping out entire harvests, while summers were brief but brought life back to the earth. To them, even the cosmos obeyed this rhythm. What is born must one day die, and from the ashes, something new will rise. Nothing endures forever, not even the gods. Second, it is a story of powerlessness before destiny. Even Odin, the all-wise father of gods, could not escape the death foretold by the Norns since the dawn of time. Thor, Loki, Heimdall, Freyr, all knew their fate, and yet they still marched into battle. This reflects the Viking spirit. Death itself is not to be feared. What is truly shameful is to flee when fate calls your name. Third, Ragnarok speaks of balance restored. The Aesir gods, though mighty, were not blameless. They deceived, they waged wars, they sowed rivalries. Ragnarok is the reckoning, the great settlement where every deed must be paid for. In this clash between forces of destruction and preservation, neither side claims victory. Instead, they cancel one another out, clearing the way for a new order. But the deepest meaning of all lies in resurrection. No matter how shattered the old world becomes, new life always breaks through. A man and woman emerge from the roots of Yggdrasil. A young sun rises to banish the night, and the laughter of children once again rings across green fields. The message is clear. Destruction is not the end, but the doorway to renewal, and sometimes, to be reborn, the world must first be burned. That is why, when Vikings gathered by the fire to tell the story of Ragnarok, they were not only telling a tale of doom. They were passing on hope. Hope that no matter how fierce the storm, one day, dawn will return.